Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the East Bridgewater Planning Board for Thursday, January 4th, 2024. It's now 7:08 p.m. We'll declare the meeting to be open at this time. Present and acting for the board this evening, we have all regular members, Diane Phillips, Rachel Tedesco, Sherry Bates, Roy Gardner, and myself, Kevin Riley. Happy New Year to everyone out there. Hope it is a happy and prosperous and healthy one for all. Our agenda is relatively light this evening. We'll begin with consideration of the minutes from December 4th, our last meeting, 2023. Assuming that everyone has had an opportunity to read them and has no questions or proposed changes, Chair would entertain a motion to waive formal reading and accept the minutes in the form presented.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as
A motion
presented.
by Ms. Phillips. Is there a second?
I second that.
Second by Ms. Tedesco. Discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Record will reflect the unanimous vote of all members present. We have no Form A plans for endorsements, no public hearings or meetings scheduled this evening. Move on down to the Thatcher Street matter. So with Thatcher Street, you'll recall that there was a proposal from Attorney Burke to create an overlay district. He provided us with some language for that. That language, we tinkered with it a little bit. Attorney Burke came back and met with his approval. We also then got some feedback from a couple of the department heads, most specifically Deputy Chief Windsor and our building commissioner. And the draft, that's in front of you now incorporates those proposed changes. You'll see them in the opening paragraph, I believe, and in the second and third paragraphs. I believe that's where those changes lie. So my thought was that this ideally would be a final draft of the proposal, and it would now, I think, be appropriate to send it back to Attorney Burke just to make sure that he's on board with everything that's been changed, and to give the board a final opportunity to review the text, so that we would take it up at our next meeting for approval and then submission to the Board of Selectmen for placement on the Springtown meeting warrant. Sound like a plan?
I'd also move that we return the current, quote, final draft to Attorney Burke for his review and concurrence. Pending receipt of that back, we'll let the selectmen know that we need a warrant article at the annual town meeting.
So, assuming that the office has the email address for Attorney Burke, if not, I do have it, I can provide it. We'll have that, we'll send that back to him just for his final pass over, and assuming he has no objections, we'll take it up at the next meeting for approval, and as Roy indicates, submission to the selectmen, select board. Sounds good. Okay. PERS path.
Do we need a second in a vote on that?
I mean, it's more an administrative thing if you...
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That's fine.
PERS path. Mr. Gardner.
All right, several things here. This is one of the last formally approved plans that was done prior to us having fully engaged
EP?
EP. I want to give it their full name, and I just keep coming up with EP, but EP.
Environmental partners?
Environmental Partners, thank you for that, yes.
Go ahead.
So, in any case, we did prepare a road bond, which was initially done, and it came out in the range of somewhere around $90,000 road bond estimate. That was redone after the paving was done and catch basin covers were put into grade and several other items. The redone number was just under 70,000 at 69,000 and some odd. That bond was placed with the town accountant, treasurer today. Account has been opened. It is actually a cash bond, i.e. a check. Applicant decided that going through the third tri-party agreement stuff with the bank was probably not worth it, so he has provided an actual check, so it will be a cash bond held by the treasurer's office for Pierce Path. So we have documentation that shows that has been passed on to the treasurer. The treasurer has received, as of today, a road bond account from the planning board in the sum total of $69,252. That's actually, and again, we're trying to be very careful to make sure that everything is named appropriately so that later on, for whatever reason down the road, we can make sure we can find the person who technically owns that money once the road is done. So it's actually, the check is in the name, and the road bond is in the name of MYJESDI Realty Trust, Greg Higa, owner developer. He uses his, I believe that's his business address, 474 North Bedford Street in East Bridgewater. So based on that, we could, I believe, entertain a motion, which I will actually make right now, and that is a motion to sign the lot release document for the 3 lots on Pierce Path. Those have been identified as lots 1, 2, and 3. Given that we have received the road bond amount, which was the amount requested per our prior road bond estimate.
So that would be a release of the full covenant, right?
Technically, no,
Technically, no.
because we don't release the full covenant until we receive the actual as-built plan.
Okay, so then the motion is by Mr. Gardner to approve a release for lots 1, 2, and 3 on Pers Path. The bond amount of $69,252 having been provided to the board and then to the town treasurer accordingly. So it would be the motion to release those lots from the covenant. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Motion is seconded by Ms. Tedesco. Further discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let that record reflect the unanimous vote of all regular members voting. Record will also reflect, please, that our associate member Yvonne McCray came into the room and has joined the meeting this evening. Anything further on Pers Path, Roy?
There's still a bit of confusion on the sidewalk. The reason the sidewalk is in the bond is the actual recorded plan, I believe it's sheet 3, clearly shows the sidewalk there with its required handicapped access, clear dimensions, clear description of how it should be built. And it runs the full 450 feet, which is the number that was used in the estimate for the road bond. So I did explain to the applicant that based on the fact that that's the legal recorded plan as of right now, that we need to have that on the road bond. He did point out that up until the final plan that got recorded at the registry, there was no sidewalk on the plan. And he's not exactly sure how it got there, so that is being researched, but for now, the bond amount does cover the sidewalk. And I expect that we will revisit the sidewalk issue at some point down the road.
I saw what you sent out about for a specific type of residential street that a sidewalk was not required, and that was a little confusing
Yeah,
to me.
we're still trying to find out how it ended up on the final plan that got recorded. No one picked that up,
Yeah.
but it is clearly on the plan.
Yeah,
And my understanding, past practice shows that we have to bond everything that is shown on the plan,
okay,
because I can't find anything where we formally waived the sidewalk, even though the subdivision rules and regulations indicate that for a three-lot subdivision of that length, he doesn't really need a sidewalk. Since it's now on the plan, we will require a revised plan without the sidewalk if the board, in a majority, determines that we don't need that sidewalk. Because we have to have the right plan on record at the Registry of Deeds.
right.
So he's gonna research that with his engineer. I actually spoke to him late yesterday. And he said he'll research, he says he acknowledges it's there. So he understands why it's on the bond. He said that the net amount, percent of the bond, he said isn't enough to quibble about right now, so
Okay,
he agreed just to place the bond amount, and we'll sort that out as we move ahead.
see,
Okay. Engineering and road bond accounts, Roy. I know you were looking at a couple to try to locate folks or officers or the like. I don't know if you've had any luck with that. If not,
Actually, no.
okay, that's
I
fine.
think we're getting near to the point where we're gonna need to go back to town council and ask for some formal advice as to how we handle those.
I think then, moving on to section D on the agenda, the other items that we're following, I think we can take West Union Street unless someone else has a concern there. We can take West Union Street off the list, moving forward. The past due taxes, the bylaw change, I would put that on, I think, for the next meeting to have an updated draft, Roy? Is that
Yep,
fair enough?
that's
Okay.
fine.
The master plan, I believe the surveys that were sent out were due, so they should be in the process of compiling that information. And once we have that, then we would, I think, do next steps with respect to some public meetings and such. The zoning map changes, again, I think we're pretty close to approval on that, but we, again, don't have the ability to display them tonight, so ideally, for the next meeting, we can have that up on the boards, we can hopefully review.
There's gonna be potentially four different possible zoning map changes.
okay,
One of them is obviously the one we just talked about, which is the Thatcher Street overlay. Second one would be the MBTA North District overlay.
uh-huh,
The third one would be the MBTA Central Downtown District overlay. The fourth one, which is still in somewhat preliminary review with all of the departments, was discussed again yesterday in the track meeting, is the town-owned land that sits east of Central Street, near where it intersects Route 2714. So it's the opposite side of Central Street from where those new homes are being built right now.
Oh, okay.
That's the other half, if you will, or it's actually the other 30% maybe of what was previously referred to as the, lots of different names, but what was the name of the land that was referred to down there in the 5,000?
That's the Hanson land.
That's a lin-
I'm sorry, the Hanson Land Company land, yes.
Yeah.
okay, okay. But that hasn't come before
So right
us.
now, I believe, if my recollection is correct, that land is still zoned industrial.
Uh-huh.
The use of it as industrial would be a bit problematical because it's in Hanson's Aquifer 2 protection, wellhead protection district. So that's somewhat incompatible with at least conceptually industrial use.
No.
So I think at our next track meeting, which should be 2 weeks from yesterday, just about 2 weeks, we're going to have a further discussion on what the proposed rezoning would be. The hope, at least as discussed again in the track meeting yesterday, is that the town would plan to auction that land off sometime later this coming year, but before the end of the year. So there's still a ways to go with that, but I'll, as the representative of the board to the track meeting, I'll keep the board updated as to where it looks like that's going. And in discussion from those, by the way, we did receive an email yesterday from a group whose name I'm not going to come up with, and I don't see that email on the table in front of us.
On the MBTA communities?
Yes. All right. So it's from a group called CHAPA, Community Engagement. Do you have the actual email? All right, that's the email, yes. So the actual email was sent from the coordinator at CHAPA, a woman by the name of Lily Linky. She's identified as the MBTA Communities Engagement Manager,
Yeah.
which is part of Citizens Housing and Planning Association. They have offered to provide technical assistance to communities that are now wrestling with this issue. So what I would like is with the okay of the board to make a motion that the board authorize me to fill out the application form and submit it to Lily. It's an online form, as I understand it from the link here. I did look at it quickly today. They're accepting applications starting now until January 24th.
Right.
So my thought is the sooner we would get that in, the more chance of receiving that help. One of the things that I think is important is it's my understanding that they have immediate access to all of the current districts that have been identified in past, and most of the ones that have been proposed by other towns in terms of the actual zoning wording,
Okay.
which I think would be very helpful. Especially if those communities that have already passed them have been accepted by the Attorney General. Because I'm a fan of using existing stuff that's been already approved and accepted, if that's possible, so.
Yeah. I have a question. I see that, is this just for you to participate, or would it be for any of us to participate?
I don't, the way it's worded, it's kind of worded pretty broadly, so I'm not 100% sure exactly. I don't know whether it means they'll accept one person per town from any one of the
Yeah,
things in here, or how they do that.
yeah. Because I looked at the same letter, and I was a little confused about that.
I mean, my sense of it was that, it's not limited to an individual, but rather that, multiple people from planning staffs, from board members, whatever, could all, sort of be the East Bridgewater representatives, or the participants.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Roy is absolutely correct that it would be the appropriate thing to do to, move forward with getting that application submitted as soon as possible, because there is a limited number of, or there are a limited number of spaces available. And, we, I think, would certainly like to get into the process at this point. So, Mr. Gardner, having made the motion to complete the application to Citizens Housing and Planning Association, on behalf of the town of East Bridgewater, I'll accept a second to that motion.
I second that motion.
Seconded by Ms. Tedesco. Further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it's a unanimous vote of all members. So Roy will take care of that for us tomorrow, or? as soon
Yeah,
as you
I'll
can?
try and get to it immediately tomorrow to get that in, because I've got to believe they're most likely going to go by
I should bring it up or
who
not.
came first,
Sure.
for lack of any other. I'll try and make it clear in the application as well that we're a community without any formal
Planner.
paid planning assistance,
Yep.
and that we have done some work with Old Colony Planning Council.
Yeah.
But I think that will maybe give us a leg up over those towns that have an onboard, paid planning group. A lot of towns in our size actually have more than one person in the paid planning group these days. There's almost no one left of towns of our size that have no planning members, but paid planning,
Yeah.
planners on board, so.
What you do is,
Well, that's another thought that I think we ought to revisit with the selectmen, the possibility of posting a planning job with descriptions that fall into the possible salaries that reconcile with the,
Surrounding
You know, the,
communities or the like, yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
because, we see, we don't all see it, I guess, but I do see the documents that are issued at the state level on a, I believe it's a monthly basis, which is a newsletter that has some 5 to 6 pages of available municipal job openings. There's always at least 5 or 6 planning openings there. They're all in the range of salaries from somewhere between $90,000 and $140,000 to $150,000,
Wow.
which even the low end of that is still 20 to 25% higher than we were looking at 2 years ago town meeting, I think, not last year. I think it was 2 years ago.
If we could afford it, I would really like that.
So, are we looking to send a letter to the select board with that request, that they
Well,
factor that into the,
work of the planning.
Well, I think,
Budget for the coming fiscal
I think
year,
we
or what do
could
you
start off with a letter asking that the selectmen on behalf of the town consider, with input from the planning board and input from the finance committee, to putting a position in place that would hire a town planner, and that town planner's salary be somewhere in the range of town planner salaries that have been clearly identified in, I think that the name of the document's the Beacon,
Ah,
which is published monthly, which will be in the range of those towns that are offering to hire planners in the salary range.
yep,
At least maybe get the discussion started, so.
good.
so, the motion then is by Mr. Gardner to draft a letter to the select board requesting the consideration of hire of a town planner with salary commensurate with experience and like community, or salaries of like communities. And I'll be happy to draft that and send it around for circulate it and approve it, and then we can get it off. So that would be the motion. A second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Ms. Phillips. Discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous vote of all members present. Anything else from anybody?
I have one thing. Mr. Seeley sent out a request of anybody that was interested in being on the master plan committee, and that is, they're bringing it forward to the select board on Monday. I'm putting in a request to be on that committee. So that I'm assuming is looking at the master plan with the Old Colony Plymouth
Planning Council.
Planning Council. And
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly would be valuable, whether as, private citizen Diane Phillips or as planning board member Diane Phillips, to have your participation in that, so, yeah, that's great.
Is anyone else on the committee putting in for that? No.
I have to look at the time commitment.
There were some
I've read
specific
it.
dates, I believe, that you had to commit to some specific dates, and I don't have that.
I'd be interested in looking at that, yeah.
I'm not aware, Roy, whether they were going to have, as they have on some other committees, designate just a planning board representative as well as, as well as entertaining
They would usually,
Private
they would usually ask,
planning board for a recommendation.
past practice, which is a long time ago now, but was always to issue a memo to each of the town departments and ask them
Designate.
to formally designate a member. That would be everyone like DPW,
So the-
Assessor's Office, Zoning Board of Appeals, Board of Health,
At large.
to nominate formally a representative. I think anyone is free to apply as a, as a citizen. It's up to them to try and decide how they select that.
Well,
but-
I mean, if it's appropriate, we can submit a letter, indicating that, if they're intending to do that, that we would designate, a representative for the board.
Yeah, I would do that. I would send a letter noting that if the intent is to have a formal representative, designated by the board, that we'd identify that member to the selectmen to be part of that committee.
All right, so again, I'll just, put a letter together for that, I'll add it tomorrow. So, just apropos of that, do we want to designate, indicate that we would designate Diane in that capacity? That's fine with me, since she was the first one to speak up about it. And then, Rachel, you can certainly apply as a citizen representative or what have you,
Okay,
Well, by law, the meetings all have to be public, so certainly anyone's free to attend.
Yep.
So I'll make that motion. I'll make the motion that we appoint Diane Phillips as the representative from the planning board, assuming that the selectmen will want a formal representative for each of the major town boards and committees that would impact and provide input to the master plan.
Okay, so that motion is made. A second to the motion,
I'll second that.
seconded by Ms. Tedesco. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Unanimous vote of all members present. So I'll put that letter together tomorrow, we'll get it sent off, and to the extent that they're going to make that, of a planning board representative, that would be you.
Thank you, and I report back all findings.
It's a highly salaried position,
Oh,
so,
it sure is.
okay. Anything else to be discussed this evening? Hearing nothing. It being 7:35, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
So moved.
Motion is made by Mr. Gardner. Second to the motion,
I'll second that.
seconded by Ms. Tedesco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that is a unanimous vote to adjourn at 7:35 PM. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 5th,
Wow,
7
yeah.
PM, back to our regular Monday schedule. Thank you all.
Okay.